Moving on to our second exercise for this lesson, all we're going to do now is add in the fifths to every chord which is held for an entire bar of 4/4. So this would be F major 7, B flat 7, G7, C7, and all the others. So I'll zoom in here to this F major 7 chord, and the fifth of F major 7 is C. So now I'm going to take our whole note, I'm going to change that to a half note just by pushing this button. And for you, you would probably actually just write this out again. It seems like lots of work to do, but you will really get a lot out of this if you write out a whole bunch of stuff. So take a new piece of paper and write out all of this again. It's really going to be worth it. And so now I'll grab my half note, and for the second half note of the bar, I'm going to change it to a C. And that is as simple as it gets. So now I'm going to go through all the other chords, like the B flat 7 chord, grab the whole note, change it to a half note, grab my half note, and the fifth of B flat 7 is F. So I'll go up to an F here. That looks good. Moving on to G7, I'll grab the G, change that to a half note, and the fifth of G7 is D, so I'll put in a D. Here's a really nice little tip for you. All of these chords, except for the E minor 7 flat 5 chord, the fifth of the chord will be a whole tone above the root note of the very next chord, if the chords are moving in the cycle of fourths, which in this key, in this piece of music rather, they all are. So D is the fifth of G7, and it is a whole tone or a step above the root note of the next chord, C7. So now this is the point where we actually need to think, what chord do we have that comes next after the C7 chord? And it's a high F. So just to give you an example of what I wouldn't do here, I'll change that to a C. I'll change that to a half note, grab my half note pen, and I'm going to put in a low G. This is technically the right note for the chord, but we're going to a high F in the next bar. So probably not the best G. It's going to be a weird leap up from the G here all the way up to a high F. So what will be a better idea? Well, we'll just change this G to an octave up. Just put it there. And now we've got a step from the G here all the way down. It's really, really close to our next root note, and that's a much better way to get to that next chord. Okay, let's continue on. Change that to a half note. I'll grab my half note. I'll put in a C here. I could go up an octave. Actually, yeah, let's go up an octave. Let's go up to that high C there. And let's keep looking through. B flat. I'll add in my fifth. We'll go down to an F. That probably works better. And now for this case here, when we get to the F major 7, the root note, the fifth of F major 7 is C, but that's also the root note of the next chord that we're going to when we get to the B section. So you could actually put in a C here, but then you see what happens here? We're actually playing two Cs in a row, and that's not necessarily bad, but in my opinion, it probably sounds better if it's not the same note two times. So I'm actually going to change this to another F. I'm going to take this up the octave and play a high F here. I think that personally is going to sound a bit better. Take my C, change that to a half note. Put in the fifth, which is G. Now this just takes practice. Being able to work out what notes are in each chord, it just takes practice. So right now in this lesson, I'm telling you what every single root and fifth is in the chords. But for the moment, don't worry about that too much. So I'm going to add in a C here for the F7 chord, root, and then fifth. And now B flat, I'm going to change that note to a half note. Grab my half note, put in an F, which is going to work nicely. We're going up to a high F here. Change that to a half note. Now let me have a little look forward. Okay, I'm going to an E flat in the next bar, so an F fifth here for the B flat 7 is going to work nicely. It's a whole tone above our target note in the next bar, E flat. And so this is so easy. You just go through. Once again, if you're not sure what the fifth of the chord is, just find the root note of the next chord and go up a tone. So A flat, a tone up from A flat is B flat. So I'm going to grab my pen and put in a B flat. It's that simple. So I'm going to change that to a half note. And I'm just going to do these fairly quickly now. E flat, put that in. And now I'm gone up to a high G, so it makes sense to go up to a high A flat for this next chord and not a low one, because I don't want to do a weird leap. So I change that to an A flat, and we've just got a couple left. So for this case, I think I will go down to the low C. I went up to the high C previously. I'll go down to the low one this time. And got two left. F. And finally this one. And let's just put in a C. That's going to be fine. And there we go. We've filled it in, and now this is actually a two-field bass line. Using roots and fifths for the chords where it's one chord per bar, and using just roots for chords that are two chords per bar. So that'll do it for exercise 2. Let's move on to exercise 3.